Hey guys, I wanted to make a video about yet another day in the life of a targeted individual. And this is actually, we're going to talk about 2 days here. So I'm going to start with what happened yesterday. So now I don't take public transportation as often as I used to. I still do take it, but I take more cabs now just because it's getting more difficult to take public transport given everything that's happening. So yesterday I took a cab to the location that I was to the first location, and then I took public transportation to the next. Okay, so the cab driver took a different route to the destination, and he's not the first who has done that. And I know why. There are a lot of perpetrators waiting along that specific route. So yesterday we stopped. The cab driver stopped at a stop sign, and there was some guy standing there, and he took his phone out, pointed the camera right at the cab, and flashed. I saw the flash, right? He took a picture, it flashed. All right, so that's that. First thing in the morning that happens. So I get to that location, do what I have to do. I'm waiting for the bus, and people are coming by, making gestures and mimicking my expressions. Fine, whatever. I get on the bus, and I'm on for maybe 5 minutes, and a woman gets on, and she looks me right in the eye as she walks back toward me, and then she made the nose gesture, and she sat down. She was kind of a little in front of me, kitty corner. Okay, so she just sat there, and she was mumbling something under her breath. And what they'll do is they'll whisper things softly enough so that I can, or hopefully their hope is that I can hear it and other people won't. But the thing is, I can't always hear it because I have hearing loss, and I'll tell that story another day. But yeah, I was born. Well, first of all, I was born with loss of hearing, but that got worse over time, and there was another incident that actually led to it getting severely worse. But another time. Okay, so she was sitting there mumbling something, and at first I couldn't hear her, and I guess because she kind of glanced over sideways toward me to make sure I was paying attention, and because I wasn't responding, because I mean I could hear her mumbling, but I didn't know what she was saying. So and I wasn't responding because I didn't know what she was saying, right? And so she took that up a bit, and she got a little bit louder, and she was trying to do this secretly because there are cameras on the bus too, right? So she was trying to talk a little bit louder, but without moving her lips, and it was comical. It looked ridiculous. Okay, uh, it was weird, and she started repeating things that I had said in private, that my mom had said in private, and then she took out her chapstick and she started putting it on, and then she looked down at it and commented on how there was very little left, which is the same thing I did at home, like a day or two ago. I don't remember. It was a while back. Not that long. Uh, Literally the same. This is what we mean when we say they mimic our gestures. It's not always, that they're just mirroring us right then, right there, right? They'll copy something that we said or did at home, and they're doing it to show us that they can see us in private. And I know they do this to a lot of targets. It's meant to create paranoia and fear, in a sense that we're not safe anywhere. That fight or flight response. For me, it's particularly bad because, I've always had issues with the way I look, with my body. I've always been very uncomfortable in my own skin. So the fact that someone else is almost looking at me, under a microscope, and it's 24/7 almost makes me want to jump, just crawl out of my skin. So, and they know that, and they do it intentionally, right? It's This is the sad truth about humanity. There are some among us who are just complete amoral psychopaths. Okay, they have no conscience. They enjoy hurting people, and they will do whatever they can in order to cause as much distress and suffering and anguish as they possibly can. They'll use whatever they can get their hands on to do it, including the latest technology, right? It's how it is, unfortunately. It's frightening. It's frightening how much enjoyment some of these monsters get out of tormenting others. That you can give them something, anything you give them, they'll find a way to misuse and abuse in order to hurt someone, right? They, it's frightening. In my opinion, it's just how I think. If you know that someone doesn't like something, if it's causing them distress and you can stop and it's not going to cause you harm to stop, then just stop, right? You don't keep doing it if you know that it's causing someone else distress. That's what it means to be just basic, what it means to be a civilized human being 101. This is the basics. But these monsters enjoy it. If they know that something causes you distress, they'll do it even more. They will abuse power to the highest extent that they possibly can. They will, they to cause as much distress as they possibly can. And they'll enjoy every bit of it, right? And a lot of it too, it's easier for them when it comes to those of us who are targeted, because we already have negative associations to certain stimuli, and a lot of the stimuli is normal. It's these are everyday occurrences. So other people, if they see what's happening to them, they wouldn't see anything wrong with it. But if the target has been sensitized to this particular thing, whatever it is, whether it's a comment, a gesture, whatever it is, it could easily just be that final push to break the target down. And the sick animals behind running this program know that. I think some of the perpetrators know it too. They know it too. They're enjoying this. They're enjoying this. It's it's too easy for them, and it's sick how much they enjoy it. If they could eh, cause someone, distress to the point of complete psychological breakdown by like just putting a pea under the person's mattress, right? They would do it. They would do it just to cause that person to break down. And because that's such a benign gesture, they would then stand back and say, we didn't do anything except this little thing, look, we barely did anything, right? We didn't do it. And then they would use all the excuses that go along with, you know, someone complaining about something that seems like nothing to someone else, right? It seems like nothing. It seems so benign to others. Anyway, so the woman on the bus, she once she got to the point of mimicking, the gesture with the chapstick and everything, I kind of had a little breakdown, and I said some rather unkind things to her. It wasn't my best moment, and hopefully that won't happen again. I know I gave them half of what they wanted. They wanted physical violence, and I certainly wasn't going to do that. But I did. A scene was made. A scene was made, and they got footage of me saying some things, deserved and warranted, nonetheless. And this is, I tell other targets that we have to learn to control ourselves and not react. This is why. They want a public reaction because they want us either in prison, in a mental institution, or dead. Okay, so that's what happened yesterday. Although, yeah, that's what happened yesterday. All right, so today, I had a doctor's appointment in the morning. So I went to the doctor's appointment. It was really quick. It was just, a lab appointment. It wasn't a real, I was there for like maybe 10 minutes. After that, I went to a store that I normally don't go to. And I went there because I wanted to purchase water, that I knew wouldn't be tampered with, because I had mentioned in the past that, sometimes, when you're in a store and, sometimes you can tell if bottled water and items have been opened, because you could tell right away if the seal has been broken, but you can't always tell. Sometimes you can't tell if the seal has been broken until you open it, and you can't just go around opening bottles in stores, obviously. So I went in, and I've come home, thinking that with a bottle of water or something else, and it looks like it's closed. It looks like the seal is completely, it's still intact. But no, I'll open it only to find out that the seal had already been broken. So today I went to, a store that I don't usually go to, thinking they're not going to have time to really tamper with anything to that extent. Now, there were a few items that I did want, and of course those were the few items that weren't on the shelf. I expected that. But I also, I expected the water I got to be safe, and untampered with. Okay, so I do that, and while I'm in the store, over the loudspeaker, there's a comment about deodorant, and it's someone, I don't, obviously there's not a deodorant aisle, but someone said, one of the aisles, and they were talking about deodorant. I don't know. I forget what was said. But what was that in reference to? Well, this morning when I was taking a shower, I had this brand new deodorant stick, and as I was using it, it broke. It broke, and the entire thing fell on the floor. So, I kind of looked down at it and laughed a little bit. Anyway, so it was again another comment referencing something that happened at home, right? Fast forward, I get on the bus, and there's this guy, and He's sitting in front of me, kind of kitty corner to me, and he's mimicking my gestures, and he's got his phone, the camera phone, pointed at me the entire time. And they've been doing this like for the last few days with the cameras and following me around because they know that's what'll get to me. And he's got that damn thing pointed at me the entire time. And when I got up to move, that's when he finally put it away because at that point he didn't need it anymore. Right, so I got home and my mother said she wasn't feeling well. And this is where a crisis was averted, thank God. She's okay. And well, here's what happened. Oh boy. So last night I could tell she was starting to get the sniffles. She was coughing a little bit. I figured she's getting a cold. Okay. Well, today when I got home, she said that she wasn't feeling well, that her chest was hurting, and I figured it was probably from coughing because that's happened in the past. When she gets a cold, her chest will hurt from the coughing, and her doctor will usually prescribe cold medicine or, once she prescribed antibiotics because it was like a bacterial infection or something. I don't know. But it's usually not very serious when she says that she's got chest discomfort. But today she was really complaining about it and she was making it seem pretty bad. And so I started to get worried. And so I told her to call her doctor. And so we both talked to the doctor on the phone and the doctor said, well, since you seem to have a serious chest discomfort, I want you to go to the hospital. Hang on for a second. Sorry, I had to, I just stopped the video for a minute because I had a tickle in my throat and I don't like coughing or clearing my throat when I'm making these videos just because the perpetrators do that to me so often. I don't want to do that when I'm making a video. All right. So, right, we called my mom's doctor and she said that because she was having chest discomfort that she says we should go to the emergency room. Okay. So I'm thinking, okay, and I start panicking immediately because, on one hand, I figured my mom was probably okay, that because this happens every time, she complains of chest congestion every time she gets a cold. But at the same time, we should still probably go. If the doctor wants her to go, we're going to go, and I'm going to go with her. Now, typically, what I've been doing, since I found out about organized stalking and I realized that people actually were coming, because let's backtrack a little bit. In the past, especially in the other apartment, there were incidents where I would come home and find a window open or food that was, closed, suddenly open, food that was, sealed tight, unsealed, food that was in the fridge out or vice versa. And, I thought my mom did it and just forgot about it. She denied doing it and I thought she forgot or she just wasn't telling the truth. I didn't know. And even though I knew that at that point I was being followed and harassed, I had no concept of what organized stalking was, so I could not imagine that anyone would be coming in there and doing that. I had no concept of that, so I ignored a lot of that, and I shouldn't have. You know, Once I found, I learned about organized stalking, I read some other people's stories, and it all clicked. I thought back to all of those times where I went home and the window was open in midwinter. It was freezing cold. What the hell was it doing open? Of course, my mom wouldn't open it, but back then, all I could think of was she must have opened it. I had no logical excuse. The point is, once I found out about organized stalking, and I realized that people were coming in here and doing things with our, they could be doing something to the food, to whatever we have. I started, I stopped going places with my mom. I made sure that one of us was in the apartment at all times. That was in the new apartment now. So in the past, I had gone with her to medical appointments. When I had a car, I would drive her, and then once I no longer had a car, I would go with her in either ride share or a cab. But once I found out that people were coming in here, I had to make sure that one of us was, in the apartment at all times. So I would either then send her in ride share or in a cab or have someone I trust pick her up and take her. But today I can't, we both have to go. Well, we didn't, but let me get to that. But when we were on the phone, I'm thinking, okay, if she's going to go to the emergency room, I'm going with her, obviously. So we hang up the phone and she's, and I'm throwing all of our stuff, our important, her documents, my documents, anything we have that they can tamper with. I'm throwing it all into a big bag and I'm stressing and I'm panicking and, I'm thinking about all of the water that I just bought that's going to have to be discarded because, we don't know what they're going to do with it, if they're going to tamper it. I would expect to come home and find the seal broken. We don't know if they put something in there or if they just want me to believe they did, right? So, but okay, so as I'm like throwing important documents into one bag, my mom decided to call her cardiologist because what he told her was that if, when it comes to medical issues, she should always call him first before she does anything. Okay, she called him and he said that he didn't want her to go to the hospital. He said because obviously he understood what happened in the past. We've been through this before. He knew she probably just had a cold or a virus or hopefully not some kind of bacterial infection. But he said he wants her to stay home and we'll keep an eye on it, obviously, to make sure that there's no infection and she doesn't get a fever. But he doesn't want her to go to the hospital to put her through all the tests and leave her because they do all the tests and they keep her overnight only to find send her home the next morning with a cold, right? For someone her age, it's a lot. So he said he didn't want her to go to the hospital, and that's what she told me. But I got on the phone and he explained that to me as well. So, and he seemed nice. He seemed to know what he was talking about. So since he wanted her to stay home, that's what we're doing. And so we called her doctor back, and she told her doctor that her primary care physician, that the cardiologist said that he wanted her to stay home, and he didn't want her to go to the hospital. So that's that. And plus, because what he said was that when you tell a primary care physician that you're having chest pains, the first thing they're going to say is go to the ER, right, for legal reasons and everything else. But my mom was just at the cardiologist office a few weeks ago and she was fine. Her heart was fine. So that was all explained. And so to cut this short, we didn't go. We're going to take his advice. And tonight, at least, the perpetrators didn't get into this apartment. But what I do know is that I can't keep doing this. At some point, I am going to have to start going with her to appointments once again, right? Because she's getting older, right? I mean, I can't just keep having, a friend pick her up or send her in rideshare. At some point, I will once again have to start going with her. And I'm going to, again, then have to worry about everything in this apartment being tampered with, including the food. So at this point, I'm stressing. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm almost always these days a step away from just going down to the FBI office and talking to them in person, but I fear, being sent out of there worse than I am now, possibly with a mental health diagnosis, which will completely destroy any credibility I have, which means I'll never be able to get legal help in the future because no one will believe me. It's difficult. Anyway, I just wanted to make this video. This is just another day in the life of a targeted individual. Peace.